Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. And tonight, it's Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock Central Time here. Tonight is our weekly Waiver Wire show, and it's the last Waiver Wire show of the year, so that's kind of sad, but also exciting at the same time because we got a lot of injury news and a lot of players to look into tonight to help you guys just win the fantasy championship. That's what we're trying to do here. I'm probably not going to do a Waiver Wire show next weekend. I don't like leagues that play in week 17, so I think I'm going to probably try to take some time off next week. But anyways, I do have my start-sit charts available too. I have them filled out for the Friday game, the Christmas morning game, or the Christmas afternoon game. And then we also have the Saturday triple header games that we got going on there. So I do have some of the start-sits rolling in. But for the most part here, I wanted to look at the waiver wire column. So you guys can ask questions, do whatever you need. But there's a ton of injury news to look at here. So a lot of quarterbacks. We saw Nick Mullins got basically placed on IR. He's got to have Tommy John surgery on his elbow, so that's not great at all. So we're going to see CJ Beathard get the start here. There's also a lot of news going on in San Francisco today. We did see Deebo Samuel not practicing. We're assuming Deebo's out, but the 49ers got hit with a huge list of injuries today. I'm just looking for those here so we can read those off real quick because they do affect our fantasy lineups quite a bit. So CJ Beathard named the starting quarterback for the 49ers week 16. They're going up against Arizona in Arizona. We see Kyle Shanahan believes George Kittle has a chance to return Sunday or Saturday. So this is really interesting. We'll see if George Kittle can get in it. He had a full week of practice last week, so that's a pretty positive way to start. And the fact that they're eliminated and they're not ruling him out is pretty interesting to me. So if you did hold on to George Kittle, you had him stashed in the IR spot, there's a chance. We'll see about his practice participation tomorrow. Actually, there might be some stuff available already here. Let me just click the practice reports here on RotoWire. So let's just look at San Francisco real quick. Because they do play on Saturday, this is typically like their Tuesday, usually day here. But we do see a handful of did not practices here. I don't see George Kittle on the list, so that's a good news spot there. What's going on, Harris? Thanks for hanging out, man. But they also placed Raheem Mostert on IR, so this is not good. They lose Mostert, they lose Nick Mullins. A lot of injuries to the 49ers here. I'm just trying to see anybody else here. Jimmy Garoppolo has been designated to return, so that's interesting. I'm not sure we're going to see him next week at all either, but a lot of injuries to the 49ers part. So what's going on, Bills Mafia? Thanks for hanging out, guys. We're just looking at the quarterbacks real quick here. Derek Carr, they do play Saturday as well. Let me quick check the Raiders reports. I think he got a limited day in, which is surprising with that groin injury he pulled up there on last Thursday night, but he's limited as of today. We'll see tomorrow and Thursday. I think these are going to be the more telling days, but there's a small chance Marcus Mariota gets the start here. We're going to monitor that for the next couple days. It sounds like Alex Smith is going to be back, though. He's going to be the quarterback on Sunday for the Washington football team. I don't know if you guys saw the Dwayne Haskins stuff, but he's probably not going to be having himself a good week here. So we'll see Alex Smith probably get some practice limiteds in and hopefully a full by the end of the week. But Alex Smith, good to go, I think. And then Daniel Jones, we'll monitor him. I don't think anyone's using Daniel Jones here, but just something to monitor on those quarterbacks there. And then we have a ton of running backs here. So we'll kind of dive into these guys a little bit. I did want to kind of just talk quickly about the Vikings and the New Orleans Saints because these guys play on Friday. So this is the first game that we're going to cover. We'll probably cover this tomorrow night, actually, too. So a lot of guys not practicing today, nothing really for fantasy that bothers us too much. We do see Alexander Madison not practicing and Kyle Rudolph not practicing. So maybe that intrigues you with Irv Smith a little bit there, but the Vikings are relatively healthy on the fantasy side of things. And then I'm looking quickly at the Saints. Again, this game's Christmas afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Looks like Traquan Smith did not practice. That's going to make me like Emmanuel Sanders quite a bit. If we know Traquan's not going to be playing and you need a wide receiver 3 flex play on Friday here, that could be Emmanuel Sanders. So I like that. Harris is asking, should I start George Kittle if he plays instead of Mark Andrews? Standard. I think I'm rolling with Mark Andrews for sure. He's been the last 4 games from Mark Andrews have been what we expected all season. So I do feel really, really healthy, Mark Andrews there. Just the way Lamar's playing too. With Kittle, you're also getting CJ Beathard. Who knows if he's getting typically Kittle would play 90+% of the snaps. I don't know if we're going to get that right away week 1. So I think I'm going to roll with the safe Mark Andrews against the Giants. But that could change. But for now, I think Mark Andrews is on one of the the list of tight ends of guys I wouldn't sit Kittle over. So that's of course going to be Kelsey, Waller, maybe Hawkinson, but Mark Andrews I think is on the good one. But yeah, what's going on, Aiden? NBA tonight, we got a lot of fun going on. And then, yes, Bill, Akers is out. He's probably not playing the next 2 weeks here. Let me actually just search for his report real quick. So one of my favorite ads on the waiver wire this week is going to be Darrell Henderson. We'll look at the snap counts for the Rams real quick too. But he's going to miss at least week 16. I don't. If you guys play in week 17 for fantasy football, I'm not super excited. But the Rams are likely going to install their Henderson 1A, Malcolm Brown 1B. Henderson's the much more elusive and more exciting back. So if you did see Darrell Henderson's available on your waiver wire, that's probably the guy that I'm going to be looking towards the most. And then I guess while we're here, I mean, I know it's been the Cam Akers show at least the last 2-3 weeks in terms of snaps and touches. But let's just take a quick peek here. So last week was kind of weird. Even Malcolm Brown only got 16, but Henderson only gets 7. So this kind of bugs me. I still like Henderson as the better back, but if you play in a standard touchdown league, maybe that means Malcolm Brown. He was kind of the main goal line back throughout the season at various times here. So if you play in a standard league, I think Malcolm Brown might interest me a little bit more, but I do still think Darrell Henderson might be the guy that they roll with here. Let me see the questions rolling in here. So what's going on, Monir? Pick a flex, full PPR. Godwin, Mixon, Kittle, and Rodgers are hurt. So I'm going Godwin against Detroit. I don't think Mixon's going to play, and Kittle is still on the fence about playing. And even if he does play, I'm worried about his snap counts and his participation. There's just kind of a stink around the Niners right now. It's going to be C.J. Beathard as well, which could benefit Kittle, but I'm not expecting a typical workload for Kittle here. So I'm going to go with Godwin for sure against Detroit, and then Rodgers or Jalen Hurts. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts ranked among the top amongst a lot of experts this week. But let's just take a peek here. Jalen Hurts going up against the Cowboys, or do you sit the potential MVP Aaron Rodgers for the rookie hot quarterback here? So I'm just kind of filtering by fantasy points allowed by the quarterback here. So Rodgers is playing the Titans at home. They allow about 20.3 points per game if you play in 4-point touchdowns. And then with Jalen Hurts going up against the Cowboys, they're a little bit stingy here at 18.8, but you're getting, upwards of 50+ yards on the ground from Jalen Hurts there. He's probably got a good chance at 2 or 3 touchdowns in this one as well. So I think just because Green Bay, Tennessee, that game has a lot of interesting counterbalances for each side. The Titans want to run the ball and take their play action deep shots. The Packers, they're going to try to run the ball and take their shots with Adams too. So for now, I think I'm going to lean Jalen Hurts in that game because the Eagles still have a lot to play for. So I think we're going to probably lean Jalen Hurts here. But I mean, you're splitting hairs really. I think the decision between Rodgers or Hurts, like you're looking at 2 top 5 quarterbacks. If you feel comfortable with Rodgers, go with Rodgers. But I think the huge upside play at this moment is going to be Jalen Hurts. I also think it might be an interesting Aaron Jones game against Tennessee. So Browns or the Rams defense. Rams against Seattle, they've been struggling. But the Rams just struggled against the Jets last week. I think I'm going to lean into the Browns against the New York Giants. They play the Jets. So we know the Jets just had their first win of the year. They might be riding their high and hopefully crashing here. But just quickly looking in terms of fantasy points per game, I know Seattle's been struggling, but this one's for the NFC West title basically. And just in terms of points per game, I know they've been struggling, but they put up 29.5 points per game. And the Jets are down here at 14.7. So I think I'm going to lean into this matchup here for Cleveland. Cleveland's been hot. They held the Giants to 6 points last weekend. So they're playing their best football right now. And I think I'm more comfortable with that. And with Russell Wilson, who knows, anything can kind of happen at any moment. They're also running the ball pretty well. So I think I'm going to lean with the Cleveland Browns. In terms of injuries here to the other running backs, we'll probably see about Christian McCaffrey tomorrow. We'll see his practice participation. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. I'm assuming Gibson's not going to play this week, but again, Wednesday is going to be the most important day for these guys. So if you guys were able to snag Tony Pollard, hold on to Pollard. If you're able to snag J.D. McKissick, especially in PPR, hold on to McKissick. It looks like Josh Jacobs is going to be fine. I didn't really see him on the injury report. Let me look here because they do play Saturday. But it looks like Mr. Jacobs got a full practice in. That's awesome. So I'm not concerned at all about Josh Jacobs. That's really good news for him. Again, Cam Akers not playing this week. Who knows if I mean, if you play in week 17, I don't know what's going to happen there. But Ronald Jones, the reports that I was seeing for Ronald Jones, I'm going to have to change this because it looks like he's doubtful. It seems like he's got a rough time to get a practice in before he clears COVID protocol here. So I'm assuming Ronald Jones is not going to play. That's going to make me like Leonard Fournette quite a bit. And then with Jeff Wilson here, he's questionable with an ankle and a hamstring, but we did just see Raheem Mostert went on IR. So let me just quickly check Mr. Wilson's reports here. So Jeff Wilson, not even on the injury report, which is great news. So I think Jeff Wilson's in for a prime full workload day. You're probably going to see Jerick McKinnon worked in there too. Let me see what's going on over here. So Wilson, Hurts, Baker, or Allen. It's going to be closest between Hurts and Allen. I think I'm going Hurts, though. The momentum's for Hurts is just hot. I don't know if you guys watched that game. I know the first quarter was a little slow, but Jalen Hurts is doing things right now that are pretty special. And he's getting the Cowboys, who just let the 49ers throw for, I think it was 3 or 4 touchdowns last week. So there's a lot to like with Jalen Hurts. Again, Mullins threw 2 touchdowns, and Beathard even got one at the end, over 319 yards for the 49ers there. And this is a game where the Eagles need a win to stay alive, and it's in Dallas too, so you don't have to worry about weather elements or anything. And I don't know. I think I'm going with Jalen. The way I would rank these would be Hurts, Allen, Baker, Russell Wilson, which just feels weird. Wilson's hard to trust right now, so that's probably how I would rank them. But I think a lot of people are going to be telling everyone to start Jalen Hurts this week. And I'm starting Hurts as well. I'm starting Hurts in a Superflex league. I have a lot of quarterbacks to choose from, and I'm playing Hurts over Justin Herbert. So keep Carlson or get Zerline. I need every point. Okay, I have in the one championship I'm in where there is kickers, I have Carlson, he's been a beast. Dan Carlson's been fantastic all year long, but now he's getting a matchup against the Miami Dolphins, who allow the second fewest fantasy points to kickers here, which is only about 4.5 points per game. But just looking at the trend the last couple games, I've noticed, Nick Folk hit 4 field goals against them the other day, and then Butker was able to get 7. Cincinnati, the Jets, the Denver put up 8. They can sometimes put up some points. I think this was a game where the Chargers just scored a lot of touchdowns here. Zane Gonzalez, 6. But they didn't really play a lot of good teams, a lot of good kickers here. So I think this might be kind of a flawed situation here. I would bet that, just especially if Derek Carr plays, it really doesn't even matter who the quarterback is actually. The Raiders, let's also see. The Raiders, I don't believe, are fully eliminated. So the Raiders do need their points. I think it's going to be a heavy Josh Jacobs game. The Raiders are the last team here. They need a win to stay in. So I think, because I also saw the Greg Zerline on my waiver wire. So I have the same question that I'm dealing with. I think I'm going to continue to roll with Dan Carlson, though. The Cowboys offense and Greg Zerline, I've seen Zerline miss a handful of kicks so far this year on primetime. And in a game against Philadelphia, it feels good. But I think that I guess both Dallas and the Raiders are a little bit hard to trust. But just based on season-long stats, I'm rolling with the guy that got me there. And I think I'm going to stick with Carlson. So Harris says, would you play Hurts, Russell, Josh, if I have Beasley, Tyler, and Metcalf? Would you play Hurts, Russell, or Josh Allen if I have Beasley, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf? It might be nice to get some exposure with Hurts, because sure, if Beasley has a big game, maybe Josh Allen only throws 1 or 2 touchdowns, and if Beasley has the good game, then you benefit. There's also the potential there where if you do play Josh Allen and Beasley and it's not a Beasley game, that kind of also happens there too. And then with Lockett and Metcalf, I think you still have to start those guys, but there's that chance where Russell could potentially just throw 1 touchdown, 200 yards, and then maybe you get enough points with Lockett and Metcalf. So I think I'm going to diversify here and go with Jalen Hurts. But again, I'm going to rank those Hurts, Allen, and then Russell Wilson. And because you're dipping into the Lockett Metcalf, that could be really sweet if everything hits. Like if Wilson goes out there and throws 3 touchdowns, 1 to Lockett, 1 to Metcalf, you're feeling really good. But that's just not what we've seen lately out of this Seattle offense. They have a lot of running backs, and they like to keep playing tough football on offense. So I think Jalen Hurts right now. I think you got to ride the Jalen Hurts. So where were we? We were looking just at Josh Jacobs. We got to him. Cam Akers, we said he's out. Ronald Jones out. Jeff Wilson. James Robinson, I don't know what's going on with him. If you were fortunate enough to add him at any point this year, I think we have to plan for him not to play this week. So hopefully you guys get some backups there, or maybe potentially add some of the running backs that we'll get to on this list. We know Clyde Edwards is out. We also know Raheem Mostert's out. I think Myles Gaskin's going to play this week. He was on the COVID list, I think, the last 2 games, but he's going to be playing, and he's probably going to muddy up the whole Salvon Ahmed situation. So you're probably looking at some kind of split between Gaskin and Ahmed, which makes me a little bit nervous. Gaskin's probably a low floor RB2, and Ahmed's got the potential for rushing touchdowns. I'm assuming Jamal Williams is not going to play. He actually did not practice today. Because the Packers played on Saturday, they were able to get to practice a day early here, which is always really nice for practice reports. They're not loading up here, but I did see Jamal Williams did not practice today. So if you have Aaron Jones, you're feeling really good about Aaron Jones if Jamal Williams can't go. Duke Johnson, again, he's got the neck injury, so David Johnson's going to be on a lot of my start questions. I think this week I'm going to tell people to start David Johnson against the Bengals. And then Damian Harris, we'll see about him. I don't know if we care about investing in the Patriots backfield, but that's where we are right now, 2020. The Patriots stay away. The receivers, big name receivers here. We got to watch Julio Jones. I think tomorrow will be a very telling day. If Julio does not practice, I would be trending towards not playing this week. If he does get a limited day in, I think he's going to be trending and pushing towards playing. So we'll monitor Julio Jones the rest of the week. Michael Thomas, we know he's done. Sounds like no problem for Stephon Diggs. Keenan Allen is the one to keep an eye on. The Chargers also have Mike Williams. We'll keep an eye on him. So I'm kind of curious about the Chargers' weapons there. We'll keep an eye on Allen. Reagor had a high ankle sprain. I think he's on the more doubtful side. I don't know if people are relying on Reagor. Kenny Golladay, though, doubtful again. We're probably not going to see him in the next 2 games. Debo, probably not going to see him. But there was some positive signs. Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki got limited days in today. So if you're banking on Dolphins, it looks like those guys got back. Also makes Tua a pretty good option there. If you guys remember what Herbert just did against that Raiders defense, I think the Dolphins offense could have a little bit of fun. Michael Gallup, he avoided some serious injury here. I don't know what is going to be tomorrow. I'm assuming he's not practicing tomorrow, but I don't think people were trusting Gallup. I don't think they were trusting Ruggs. So just a couple guys there to keep an eye on, but we'll kind of get into some of the quarterbacks here that I'm streaming. Kevin Durant going off already. Yeah, I'm excited to get to that. I kind of timed it up so I can watch the second half here. Dolphins, Bears, or Washington defense. I'm more interested in the Bears versus the Jaguars, especially if no James Robinson. The Dolphins, it's a good matchup against the Raiders, but I think with Mariota, they showed some fight. So if it is Mariota and it's Josh Jacobs, I think that could be a game that I'm not really excited about for the Dolphins defense. So it's going to be between the Bears and Washington. With Washington, they've been playing some really good football. They almost just beat Seattle last week. But I think for now I'm going to rank them Chicago, if no James Robinson. And then we'll go Washington close second, and then the Dolphins probably not interested. But especially, man, if no James Robinson, you're going to want to start that Bears defense. And the Bears are playing good football all of a sudden. A 2-game win streak here. Bears are coming hot here. So Kenyon Drake or Chris Godwin. Monir, is this still for the full PPR league that we were talking about earlier? If that's the case, I'm going Godwin. Especially if it's full PPR. It's going to be the Detroit Lions game on Saturday. I'm diving into that. I think Tom Brady's going to have a pretty good game. And KD going off already. 4 minutes in, 10 points. Not bad. Not bad. So Bills Mafia Bob. My receivers are still Robbie Anderson, Corey Davis, and Julio. Some guys who are available are Marvin Jones, Hollywood, Sanders, Lazard, Watkins, Higgins. Should I make a move? I'm into Emmanuel Sanders. Especially, I know it's Christmas Day. It's going to make it a little bit harder to get those guys in your lineup. But Emmanuel Sanders last week he had 4 catches for 76 yards, I believe. He caught like a big 51-yard bomb too from Drew Brees. This is Drew Brees' first game back. Of course, he's going to be choppy, but he still throws for 3 touchdowns. And this is a game where the Saints know they need to win out to get that number 1 seed back. So if Green Bay somehow slips up to Tennessee this weekend, all of a sudden the Saints are back in business here. So with Traquan Smith trending towards not playing here, that's going to leave. Here's the Saints receiving group. Besides Emmanuel Sanders, they got Jawan Johnson, Little Jordan Humphrey, and Tommy Lee Lewis. So one of those guys is not like the others. Emmanuel Sanders is probably going to lead the team in targets. If it's not Kamara, it will be Sanders. And that's going to be a really competitive game. So Sanders sticks out the most. I do like Hollywood Brown going up against the New York Giants. So that would be the close second, I think, there. And then Higgins, the way the Browns have been playing, the Browns get the Jets this weekend. So uh, Sanders excites me the most because he's attached to Breeze. But Marquise, he's been playing. He's still boom bust, but he's on a 4-game streak where he's actually been playing some good, like top 25 receiver for PPR leagues. So I like Sanders, then I like Brown, and then I think it's Higgins because he's the trusted number 2 for Baker Mayfield going up against the Jets right now. And then I think as much as I like Marvin Jones, I'm still nervous about starting him, like, especially against the Bucks. That could be weird, but I'm interested a little bit. But Lazard and Watkins, I don't know if we can trust them, even though they're connected to great QBs. I just think opportunity, Sanders, probably the one guy that I like there the most. So I think I'm going to go with that. And hopefully Julio can play for you. I think that would lock you in with Robbie, Corey, and Julio there. So pick one: Salvon Ahmed, Pollard, Bell, Carson, or DK Metcalf. Pulling at my heartstrings with DK Metcalf. I'm starting DK Metcalf in every league that I have him. I know it's a tough matchup, but I like to think he's a player that can rise to the occasion when a tough matchup presents him here. So I am interested in DK Metcalf. I think he's got the best ceiling. Carson, a little bit interesting there. Le'Veon Bell should get the touches. If Ezekiel Elliott's out, go Pollard. I think that's the easy one. With Salvon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin's probably back. So the guys that interest me the most are going to be DK, Carson, and probably Pollard. So if Pollard's out, or if Zeke's out, I'm going to go Pollard. But I think I got to get DK. I think I would lean towards DK or Carson in that matchup. But for now, I'm going to say Pollard, if no Elliott. Otherwise, I think I got to roll with DK. Mitch or Mariota? Go with Mitch. Go with Trubisky. Go with Trubisky against the Jaguars. Bears need to keep winning, and he's actually playing some pretty good football. I'm into Marvin Jones. He's just I guess we need to see if Matt Stafford left the game at the end of Sunday. I think he's going to be fine. I thought he got a limited day in here. He's playing Tampa Bay, so they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. But I just don't want you to get hit with this 4 for 48. Sometimes Tampa Bay's corners are pretty sticky. But a 9.1. So he's got a high floor. If you feel like the safe play, this could be a really safe play here. But I just think Emmanuel Sanders sticks out to me because I just know he's going to be a target hog amongst his receivers. But I won't fault you for Marvin Jones. I just think I don't know. We've been picking on the Vikings secondary pretty much all season. Mitch Trubisky just lit him up the other day here. They also had a good day on the ground too with Dave Montgomery. But the Vikings defense, that presents a really juicy matchup, and Emmanuel Sanders, I think, can take advantage of them. So these are just the quarterback streaming options here that I have ranked. I think I'm going to be telling people to start Hurts over pretty much any quarterback that you can get off the waiver wire. Typically I leave the top 12 quarterbacks off this list. So if you guys do have questions on your quarterback, we can get to them, but I'm going to default probably to this list. And these are my 3 favorites. So Tannehill against Green Bay. We'll see what he can do. It's actually a tough matchup on paper for Tannehill, but I think Green Bay could force them to throw the ball a little bit more than they want. So otherwise, Tua against the Raiders. We just saw Justin Herbert light that defense up. So J.D. McKissick or Myles Gaskin, PPR. I think at this point, if no Gibson, I got to go McKissick. I like Myles Gaskin, but he's also first game back from COVID. I'll be curious about his conditioning. And then they really like Salvon Ahmed, who just rushed for like 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that, to me, seems like a potential competition for Gaskin. I would like to think Gaskin can come back right away and just get his full workload that we've seen all season. But especially coming off the COVID list and the way Salvon's playing, I think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split there with JD. I feel really comfortable with JD, especially in PPR. Not really sure if you guys need super flex quarterback stuff, but I got that there too. And then these are just the running backs that are likely owned but might still be available. I'll kind of skip some of these guys. I'm assuming most of these guys are probably already owned, but the guys that have the opportunity this week, of course, is going to be Le'Veon Bell going up against Atlanta. We know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be out. If I just quickly pull up the Chiefs versus the Saints snap counts here. So this was on Sunday here. you do see Le'Veon Bell get 15 carries, 62 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 catch for 14 yards. So he got enough volume. And the crazy part is Clyde Edwards-Helaire also had a lot of volume in this one. So 14 attempts, 79 yards. This could be a potential 15 to 20 touch day for Le'Veon Bell, but the Atlanta Falcons defense is a little bit stingy. But if you play in a touchdown league, I think that's going to be probably where I'm a little interested in Le'Veon Bell. He's probably the top option. I think Tony Pollard, if no one got Tony Pollard on Sunday morning, and he's worth holding on to just to see. We don't know what's going on with Zeke Elliott as of tonight. But if we see Ezekiel Elliott's not practicing tomorrow, that's just going to make Tony Pollard's door a little bit more open to him playing another big game here. So keep an eye on Tony Pollard if you do need a potential starter there. I'm going to be telling people to start Pollard if Elliott's out. So, and then you got Salvon Ahmed, and we got the likely Gaskin return. So this kind of drops him to a low end, like a really low end RB2 with some touchdown potential. Chase Edmonds. Interesting. He finished the game stronger than Kenyon Drake did, but then on a practice report today, Edmonds was not practicing and Drake did practice. So I'm not really sure what to do with this Arizona backfield here. I think tomorrow's practice will get a little bit better information. Ito Smith going up against Kansas City. He is now the lead back. Todd Gurley, you guys could probably drop, if you're holding on to Todd Gurley, you could probably drop Todd Gurley at this point. It looks like Ito Smith is going to be the main snap running back here. So let me just pull this up. So last week, you see Ito Smith, 48% of the snaps, 31 total. Gurley with just 16, Brian Hill with 15. So I'm not expecting big things out of Ito Smith. I mean, they're just not a good running team. Going up against the Chiefs here doesn't excite me. If you're desperate, I think Ito Smith is potential. I'm gonna probably move Jeff Wilson up to the top of the list here, now that we know the Mostert status. So Jeff Wilson's probably the guy that I'm going to gun for the most here on the waiver wire. McKinnon, interesting because we know Mostert's out. McKinnon, low-end value in a PPR league. But then Darrell Williams, Frank Gore, Ogunbowale, Malcolm Brown. These are all guys with some opportunities to get some touchdowns, especially if James Robinson's out against Chicago here. Something to monitor in Jacksonville. So let me see what we got. Harris is asking, Hurts, Murray, or Justin Herbert? P.S. I have Hopkins and Allen. Yeah, Hopkins and Keenan Allen. Kyler Murray against San Francisco. I think I'm fine with Kyler Murray. Probably makes the list of guys that I'm going to keep playing. He's been so good lately, and he's heating up with Hopkins too. I think I would rank these guys: Murray, Hurts, and Herbert. I know you have Keenan Allen, but there's a chance maybe Keenan Allen gets maybe he doesn't practice tomorrow or the rest of the week, so we got to watch those reports. But again, I'm going to rank those: Kyler Murray, Hurts, and then probably Herbert. And I think the thing with Herbert is I'm just watching the receivers, and he had a really good matchup against the Raiders last week. The Broncos, again, just got slapped by Buffalo Bills, but I think I'm going to continue Murray. Murray's probably the safest play of all of them. He's got no downside, so I like Murray the best. And then you got the Hopkins connection, which is fun too. So wide receivers here that are likely owned but might be available in your league. I'm monitoring Michael Gallup because if Michael Gallup's out, I'm going to like CeeDee Lamb quite a bit because I think he's just going to be on the field. He's going to be the guy that benefits the most in terms of snap count. So CeeDee Lamb could be featured there in the slot. Jamison Crowder, if you're feeling dirty. Marquise Brown, he's been on a 4-game hit streak. Mike Williams, we'll see about his practice reports, but Emmanuel Sanders, this is the guy that has a lot of opportunity coming his way against a vulnerable Vikings secondary. Again, I think Traquan Smith's not playing, and so Drew Brees is going to be thrown to Sanders, Kamara, and probably just Jared Cook. So Sanders makes my list here. Nelson Aguilar, he did get a lot of targets last weekend. He was just inches away from a couple big catches here, but he had a decent floor game. Kiki Cutie, really good matchup against Cincinnati. He's starting to become trustworthy enough. Even though he fumbled at the end of the game, I still think there's some good things with Kiki Cutie for us. And then you got T. Higgins against Houston. We'll see who the quarterback is there, but if you needed to trust your Bengals, I think he's getting the snap counts there. And then Sterling Shepard, really low PPR play. Looks like Bills Mafia is asking, do I think J-Rob will play? I'm leaning towards doubtful at the moment. Tomorrow will be very telling. If he gets a limited practice in, then it means like good news, like he's probably playing. But if he's DNP tomorrow, that's going to be a red flag for me. So tomorrow, Wednesday, really big potential practice reports coming out for these guys. So we'll see what happens there. Brooklyn's banging. All right, I'm excited to get to it. I'm probably going to shorten the episode tonight, maybe another 10 more minutes, but I'll get to that basketball game in a sec. So I will be going live tomorrow night for sure from 6 to 7. I'll talk a little bit about that Saints-Vikings matchup. We'll look at those start-sit charts a little bit more carefully, but then we'll also open it up for questions, whatever else you guys need. I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be for Thursday and Friday, just with the holiday and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But definitely tomorrow night we'll talk about the Saints and the Vikings, and then just open it up to questions. But receivers that should be available here for you guys: Jacoby Myers. If you're feeling dirty, I don't like the Patriots' offense, but Myers had himself a pretty good day last week. He was the lone bright spot on the New England Patriots roster here. So Cam Newton throws for 209 yards. 111 of those were to Jacoby. He had 10 targets, 7 for 111. So if you need help at wide receiver, maybe Jacoby, maybe John Brown. It's going to be his first game back, so there's a little bit of a risk of snap counts and potential just being limited there. But someone I'm keeping an eye on, John Brown, Monday Night Football. Allen Lazard had a pretty good game last week. We'll see if he can. He's got a really good matchup against Tennessee, so I'm kind of into Lazard here. But he's like a maybe a fringe top 40 play. I don't love it. He's kind of risky still. Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton. We have to monitor Mike Williams and Keenan Allen tomorrow. So it sucks. I wish waiver wires would be pushed back one more day, because Wednesday is the most important day in terms of practice report schedule, because we actually get a little bit of news. So I kind of don't like that waiver wires run on Tuesday night. We're kind of left in the dark on some things. So Emmanuel Sanders, T.Y. Hilton, Russell Gage, PPR. We've been trusting the T.Y. Hilton lately. T.Y.'s got a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Russell Gage, also a tough matchup against Kansas City. If we go back to here, and let me get back. I'm going to filter to receiver, and then we'll filter to PPR. And so these are the best teams against wide receiver points in PPR. So you see the Chiefs, the number 2 team, about 30.2 points per game. So I think the only guy I'm going to be recommending for Atlanta is going to be Calvin Ridley. Russell Gage could have a nice game, but again, really tough defense here. I don't know if I want to test that. And then the Steelers down here at number 9, 9th best team. Probably don't want to test that either. I think I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders, because as I've been saying, the Minnesota Vikings, man, they've given up the most touchdowns, or the second most touchdowns to wide receivers here. If we filter this way, the Cowboys have given up 24 touchdowns to the receivers, which is that's why I like Jalen Hurts, guys. They give up the most touchdowns to wide receivers, so this could be a big one for Philly. But then again, the Vikings have given up 21 touchdowns to wide receivers. That's absurd. So I think we're going to attack those 2 units. So for me, I'm going with Emmanuel Sanders. Should I drop Gibson for J.D. McKissick? So you probably have to do that tonight, don't you, Bill? That makes me nervous to do that. I don't think Washington put out a practice report today. No, nothing. I'm assuming Gibson's not going to play this week. It's a bit of a gamble. But if you need the help at running back, McKissick could be the guy for you. If we quickly look at this, he's definitely high up there on my list, so I get it. And even if Gibson comes back, JD still has a role. So I think I would be more comfortable with McKissick in a PPR league. So I think I'm going to do it. If that's the worst player that you have on your team to cut, and like, we're going to have questions on, if Gibson plays, we're going to have questions like, should we play him? It's his first game back. Snap counts could be an issue. Maybe they're just getting him back into the mix. So I think I would, even if Gibson plays, I'm going to rank McKissick higher than Antonio Gibson. So I think I'm gonna say McKissick is worth the move here. And I think we got to the tight ends down here. So George Kittle, if you guys have any George Kittle questions, fire them up. There's a small list of tight ends, and I'm going to start over George Kittle here. But for the most part, I'm interested in Kittle, but you guys would have to have basically not a top 5 or top 6 option for me to do so. So one of the main decisions that I have to decide between, and this is kind of where I draw the line, is like Dallas Goedert versus George Kittle. I think the top 5 tight ends, I'm probably going to roll with those guys. But a guy that's going to get 8 to 10 points, I'd probably Logan Thomas against Carolina. That might be tough. Tyler Higbee, we're going to watch Gerald Everett's status because he had a concussion on Sunday. This could potentially be a nice Higbee spot. Dalton Schultz, he's been playing pretty well. He caught a touchdown last week, and it's against Philadelphia. So there is potential for some tight end touchdowns here. the Eagles do give up the 8th most PPR points to the tight end, so they're pretty generous there. So I do like that. Herb Smith against New Orleans. I think Kyle Rudolph's not playing. He's actually been playing some pretty good football the last 2 games here while Rudolph's been out. Austin Hooper had a pretty good game on the Sunday Night Football. I don't think he's going to be available for most leagues, but just someone to put in. If he's available, he's someone that I think I can trust with Baker Mayfield playing good ball. Cole Kmet against Jacksonville. He's a boom bust play. Eric Ebron, boom bust play. Jared Cook. I'm probably going to move Cook up above these 2 tight ends here, put him in this Herb Smith, Austin Hooper tier. So if you have Jared Cook questions, we can get to those too. And then Jordan Akins. These are just kind of bottom of the barrel guys here. So Bills Mafia. I have McCaffrey, J-Rob, Hunt, Carson, David Johnson. Would you play McKissick over them? So assuming J-Rob is out, I do think if McCaffrey plays, you have to get McCaffrey in the lineup. And then I think the guy that I like the most outside of McCaffrey is going to be David Johnson, especially if Duke Johnson doesn't play. I think that's going to be really easy. I mean, David Johnson caught 10 passes last week, or maybe he had 9 for 10 or something, but over 100 yards receiving for David Johnson. No Duke Johnson was a good thing for him. And it's Cincinnati, so Benny Snell kind of took him for a lot of fantasy points last night. So I'm going to rank them CMC and David Johnson. And then I think even if James Robinson plays the Jacksonville offense, he's got a nice 10 to 12 point floor, but if he doesn't catch that touchdown last weekend, that's his worst fantasy game of the year. So I'm a little bit nervous even if J-Rob plays. I'm probably going to rank them McCaffrey, David Johnson. I would probably try to get Carson in over Hunt. McKissick's probably going to be tied with Hunt for me. So I would probably rank McCaffrey, David Johnson, Carson, Hunt, and then McKissick. That's probably how I would rank them. So if you're starting 4 of those running backs, McCaffrey, David Johnson, Carson, and then it'd probably be Hunt versus McKissick. So I don't know if that's clear as mud. Let me know. But I think the option's nice to have if you can get McKissick and you don't need Antonio. But man, you got some really good running back options there. So I like that. Defensive matchups: Ravens versus the Giants. Give me that. Jacksonville. Chicago Bears against Jacksonville. That's a good matchup. Cleveland Browns at the Jets. These are probably my top streaming options. I don't know if anyone held on to the Bears, but Bears, Browns, really good defenses here. Saints are tough. We'll see if they can stop Minnesota. Tampa Bay against Detroit. That interests me. But the one team that I think might be available for most people is going to be Buffalo down here at New England. That game happened earlier this year, and it was actually kind of a barn, kind of a rock fight for the most part. Let me just pull that game up real quick. So 24-21, Cam Newton throws for 174. He also rushes for 54 and a touchdown. But this offense is just in a funk. Like, they're just not the same offense here. So I do think, and Josh Allen struggled against this defense, guys. He got the rushing touchdown, but he struggled passing-wise here. And he did have Diggs, Beasley, and John Brown all healthy here. So on the shot, like I had a lot of Josh Allen or Hurts questions. I'm going Hurts, even though I like Allen. He's playing good football, but Hurts is the matchup you want. So we got about 38 minutes here. I think I'll hang on for another minute or two if you guys have any more questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to refresh the player news real quick. Josh Rosen to the 49ers. That's interesting. Derek Carr again limited today, so that's going to be make me iffy for Marcus Mariota. I think it sounds like Derek Carr is going to try to play here. So again, Traquan Smith out. I'm going to really like Emmanuel Sanders, I think, in a lot of the start-sit questions this week, guys. No Kenny Golladay. Again, Ronald Jones probably not going to play this week with the finger and COVID-19. This was good for the Dolphins. We talked about this at the top of the show. Jakeem Grant, Gesicki, and Devontae Parker all back today. That's going to make me really like Tua. If you guys have Tua and need some help there, I think he could be a quarterback one. This one's really interesting. Jamal Williams with a quad injury. I think it's going to be, if he's out, Aaron Jones is going to win some championships against the Titans. So Hunter Henry, no practice today. Keenan Allen, no practice. I think this is just a maintenance day for Henry. This is more of a hamstring thing for Keenan Allen. So Chargers have nothing to play for. I'd be surprised if Allen plays. They can't just run him out there again and have him do his limited snaps thing. I think it's either shut him down or potentially let's see what these young guys, Tyron Johnson and Jalen Guyton, can do. So would you play Julio over Carson at flex? Well, let's pull that up here. I don't know if did Carson play against the Rams back earlier in the season here. There we go, Seahawks. Let's just look at this game. This is a good game to look at here. So back, I think this was week 9 or 10. You do see Seattle 16, the Rams 23. So not a good game for Seattle. But this was no Chris Carson. But Alex Collins still got 11 for 43 and a touchdown. Collins added 1 catch for 4 yards. This was a DJ Dallas game, 2 for 8. DJ Dallas also 2 for 23. So Carson has a safe floor. You do like Chris Carson. The Rams defense, though, makes me a little bit nervous. So I think the thing is, if Julio plays, I'm playing Julio because Atlanta's got nothing to play for. They don't play Julio unless he's 100% ready to go, and there's really no major risk for re-injury. So if we get to the Sunday and Julio Jones is still questionable, I think I'm going to pivot to Carson. But if Julio plays, I think I'm playing Julio there. Again, Seahawks kind of in a funk. Whereas Matt Ryan, they got nothing to do but else throw the ball against the Chiefs. So I think I'm going to say Julio if he plays. Otherwise, I think Carson's a viable flex option. What's going on, Jenna? Thanks for hanging out. Is Jeff Wilson or Le'Veon Bell the better waiver wire pickup? For me, I'm going with Jeff Wilson because Raheem Mostert was placed on IR today. It's kind of a 50-50 call. It was nice to see that Jeff Wilson wasn't on the injury report today. But the way the 49ers run their offense, you see Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson dominated the snap counts here. Raheem with 14 carries, Jeff Wilson 16. I think this is almost a guarantee for Jeff Wilson. Like, we know he's going to get the ball at least 15 carries, and they also like to target him a handful of times. So he could be a nice little boost in the catches. And we also know that he is like the definitive goal line back in a matchup against Arizona. I'm not exactly scared of that. So I think Jeff Wilson's going to get the potential for the touchdown and the most touches. Whereas with Le'Veon Bell, I like Le'Veon Bell. He's also in the best offense you could be, but the running back upside there hasn't been great this year. He had a good game against the Saints, tough defense. But this week he plays the Falcons, who the Falcons just let everyone throw the ball on them. So I do like Le'Veon Bell. You might see Darrell Williams kind of sneak into there and get a handful of touches too. So for me, I think I'm ranking – they're both really close. I tend to lean with Jeff Wilson, but if you have a better feeling about Le'Veon Bell than I do, go ahead and do it. But it's just kind of funny because I have to pick – I already have Jeff Wilson in the one league that I'm thinking of. I have Wilson, and then I'm picking up Le'Veon Bell. So I'm starting both guys. So if that's any consolation there, I like both guys this week, but better chance to score. Give me Jeff Wilson. I know he's the goal line back there. And then – last question, Jalen Hurts or Watson for QB this week? So Watson continues to fight hard and play well. I don't think Duke Johnson's playing, so he did connect with David Johnson quite a bit last week. But Jalen Hurts is he's the hot play right now. The good news is I like both quarterbacks a lot. It's kind of like the last question here. So with the opportunity for Watson against the Cincinnati Bengals, that could be kind of fun. But I think I'm going with Jalen Hurts. It's really close. I think both guys potential top 5 plays. But Jalen Hurts right now, I mean, I was fortunate enough to start him last week and kind of just lucked into something pretty nice here. But he's playing the Cowboys. The Cowboys allow the most wide receiver touchdowns. So that's really good for Jalen Hurts. If we quickly look at this, let me just pull this up and show you. So, hit the wrong button. So wide receiver touchdowns here, Dallas Cowboys allow 24 total on the season right now. In terms of tight ends, it looks like the Cowboys kind of stingier against the tight ends. Where am I looking here? They've only allowed 7, but between wide receivers and tight ends, that's 31 touchdowns on the season. And then if we did even filtered in running back receiving touchdowns here, just curious, 0. But really good potential for Jalen Hurts. I think he's got the safest floor. I don't expect the Houston-Cincinnati game to be competitive. It's 2 non-playoff teams, whereas Philadelphia and Dallas, those guys are still fighting for a chance. So I think I'm going to roll with the more competitive game. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. No problem, Bills Mafia Bob. Thanks for hanging out. This has been fun for me, too. This show's kind of evolved all season here. So I appreciate everyone that's been hanging out in the chat room. And it's kind of nice, getting to know some of these guys that come back in my show. And I don't know, hanging out with me on 6 o'clock p.m. Central Times. But yeah, very appreciative, and I just want to thank everybody for your time. Hopefully, I helped. If I make sense, that's kind of the goal of the show. So it seems like more people have been having some good advice than bad advice. So I think I'm doing okay. But for now, I think we're going on about 45 minutes here. If anyone's got any more questions, I'll pause for just one more option there. But tomorrow night we will be going live at 6 o'clock Central Time again. Tomorrow night I'll be talking about the Saints and the Vikings, and then open it up to questions and just looking at whatever else we might have. I think I'm trending towards Thursday 7 or 6 o'clock. I think I'm going to do a show where we talk about the Saturday games. But just even though it's the holiday season, I'm going to be talking football with you guys. So we'll see you guys for sure tomorrow. But I don't know. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Thank you so much, and peace out.